Good morning, church. So for those of you who don't know me, which most of you probably do know me because I've been here a long time, my name is Kwesi Odamiankra, also pronounced Kwazi for some of you. And this is my first time leading sermon, so I'm excited. All right. Matthew 25, 14 to 30, the parable of the talents. This story was given to people by Jesus after he entered Jerusalem following Palm Sunday. Just before this parable, he discussed the 10 virgins, talking about how people who are unprepared for Christ's return are separate from people who are. In the case of that parable, it was explained via 10 virgins, 5 foolish and 5 wise, who are going out to meet their bridegrooms. The unprepared ones, the fools, didn't bring oil, and the prepared ones did. The parable immediately after, the sheep and the goats, talks about how humanity will be divided into those who are blessed by God and those who are not. The blessed ones were those who showed compassion and empathy towards the less fortunate, and the non-righteous were those who did nothing and are sent to eternal punishment. Now, with this biblical context in mind, with Jesus discussing how the end times will go for people, let's discuss this parable. At face value, this parable seems pretty cut and dry, right? God entrusts the world to us as his kin, and when he returns, he expects it to be better than when he left it. And however, I want to focus in on 2 things, those being the third servant's actions and the master's reaction to it, along with the other 2. So the third servant's justification is odd. Quote, "I knew you were a hard man, so I was afraid and went out and hid your gold in the ground." When I was assigned this parable at first, I was extremely confused at this servant's action and justification. Why would he take this bag of silver or gold, which was still a very large sum of money at the time, even 1 bag, and hide it in the dirt? Was it out of jealousy for the fellow servants who got more money than him? Was it a sense of nihilism, a nothing matters mentality that made him do it? Well, I think I have the answer based on how the master reacts to the other 2 servants, the one who actually used his money well. Not only does he applaud them, but he actually gives them more work to go out and do. Why? Because he trusts them. He knows that they have what it takes to take something, whether little or big, and multiply it. This, I believe, is why he was so angry at the third servant. See, the other 2 took a big risk by putting such an amount of money into the world. After all, there was no guarantee that they would get as much interest as they did, or even earn a bigger amount when the master returned. This risk did result in benefit. The third servant did not take any risk. He played it safe and just kept the money in one spot. Why? Because he was afraid that should he take that risk and fail, he would end up with less money than he started, and the master would punish him. Of course, the master does still punish him severely. And that's the lesson Jesus wants to take away from this. It is okay to take risks. It's better even, because if you fail, at least people will know that you're willing to try, and God knows you are willing to try, and you will be rewarded accordingly. People who are close to me know that I am a writer, artist, and composer. All 3 of these things took years to get right, and I did a lot of things that were not right. And I learned from them. My art and writing from grade 4 compared to now is such a difference. You'd look at it and wonder if it's truly the same person who did it. To this day, whenever I show off my music or my art, I feel extremely uncomfortable because I have to come to terms with the fact that people very well may not like what I poured hours of my life into. They might even hate it. That's something I have to battle with every time I post anything. So why am I telling you this? Because I want to give you all, to every single person in this room, a lesson that it is okay to take risks and either win or lose than it is to be still and do nothing. If I just gave up on my art and my writing, I wouldn't be here right now. If I gave up on my faith during all my trials and tribulations, I wouldn't be here preaching this sermon right now. If I never took those first steps down any given path I saw, I would never reach the end. To the parents of young adults, teens, and younger kids, encourage creativity. Engage with your child when they want to share something with you, because they are taking that risk that they probably wouldn't have under normal circumstances. Offer your support and learn more about the thing that your kid is interested in. It makes them happy, and you ideally want to do the same. This goes especially for those of you with kids of university age or approaching university age. Your kid is possibly leaving the house and going out into the world for the first time in their life. Give them advice. If they don't know how to file taxes, for example, teach them how. If they're struggling with a job application or scholarship, work on it with them. Your kid, in a way, is an extension of yourself, and above all, you should want your child to succeed. This goes for faith as well. Your kid could have revelations about the Bible or about God or about Jesus that you may not have even considered in your years of learning. And that's something that you need to understand and help your kid with. To the others in this room, the toddlers, Spark Youth, Ignite graduates, and youth leaders, take that risk. If you've been debating on doing something because you're unsure of the result, make that first step along the path instead of remaining at the start line. As we can see in this parable, taking risks, particularly when it comes to faith, is better than doing nothing, if for no other reason than just for the sake of learning what works and what doesn't. I myself am taking plenty of risks nowadays. This right here is a risk that I'm taking, both faith-related and not, and I've made plenty of mistakes, and I've come out smarter as a result. If you take a risk and it works out, great. Just like the master told the first two stewards, go out and do more, create more, work more, live more. Of course, don't bite off more than you can chew, and be conscious of which risks to take and which not to take. Don't gamble, kids. But do remember that Jesus values people who aren't afraid to take a risk, especially with their beliefs, even if it doesn't turn out as expected. In the end, risk-taking should be valued when it comes to your faith. For me, being up here preaching or leading singing or doing communion, and for my friends too, everything that they do related to the church is a risk that we're taking because we're not sure if it is the right thing to do, of course. And we don't know how people will react to it. In Revelation, in one of the letters to the churches, it is said that Jesus does not favor those who are lukewarm in their faith. You're either all or nothing in his eyes. So for all of you in this room, kids, teens, young adults, older adults, I want you to ponder these questions. Am I comfortable with my faith? Whether the answer is yes or no, the next ones are, am I willing to take a bold step with my faith? Am I willing to do what it takes to push my belief in Christ to the next level? Am I ready to go and invest in my faith? Because when Jesus returns in the end and he sees that you were too careful, too unwilling to take a chance with what you believe in and who you are, he may not take you with him to the New Jerusalem, and that is an outcome far worse than death. A faithful servant takes risks. Is that you? With that, I'll leave the rest to Ryan to finish us off for today. Thank you.
Well, this is rather annoying. Quasi's clearly gunning for my job. A few housekeeping things before we continue. One other announcement. I want to make an announcement on behalf of Paul and Lorraine Sherman. Some of you might know Paul's son-in-law passed away this week. He's out in Ontario right now. We just want to pray for their families. Make sure that in our personal prayers that we're thinking about them, and of course when we see them next, that we show them that Christianly love that I think the Calgary Church of Christ is so famous for. Quasi, I'm very, very proud of you. It takes a lot of courage to get up here. I think any of you who've been up here and have had to stand out and look all of you in the eyes, it's intimidating. I'm very, very proud of the courage that's inside of you. For those of you who probably don't know this was Simon's first time presiding. It didn't seem like that at all to me. And I think it's because you are very, very familiar who Jesus is. And you knew exactly what you were talking about today. So it makes me feel very proud, and even more important, it makes me look really good, even though I probably had nothing to do with that. The people who I want to recognize today who have everything to do with that are the parents. And I want to say this to all of you. Thank you for allowing me to work with such unbelievable young people. I say this all the time, like I cannot believe the group that we have. And I hope today you guys had a chance to see a little bit of the personality and the talent and just the unbelievable faith of these young people. And so parents, I want to first and foremost say thank you. The other group I want to say thank you to are our Sunday school teachers. Most of these kids have come through and they went through Sunday school. Sunday school is a very, very taxing position to hold. For any of us who've been in it, we know that sometimes it's not just a season. It is a very, very long season. We might be in it for 10, 20. I always think about you. Some of us did it for 40 years even. And some of us, like my mother-in-law, are still doing this to this day. I thank you guys so much for your willingness to love and serve our kids, to all of you who take time for them and to teach them a little bit about the Bible and a little bit about Jesus. Thank you, Ed and Karina. Karina, your words were beautiful today. I appreciate so much your love and dedication to our youth, and I'm looking forward to what we're going to do next year. So for those who don't know me, I'm Ryan Carroll. I am the youth and family minister here at the Calgary Church of Christ. Today we are talking about potential. And this is our graduation Sunday. Maggie, super glad you're here. I'm very excited to sit and watch you walk the stage this Friday. We are all very, very proud of you. We are proud of the young woman that you have become. We are especially proud of the very obvious and real faith you have in Jesus Christ. You are a tremendous example, not only to those younger than you, like my beautiful daughter Camry, but you are an example to all of us, and people like you give us hope for the future of our church. So for that, sincerely, I want to say thank you for blessing us. Graduating is a massive achievement, isn't it? You spend so much time and you finally arrive, and it's this huge milestone. And we as a church are incredibly proud every single year of our graduates, and we're always excited to see what happens next. You may not know exactly what does come next for those who are graduating or any of us in our life. We don't know what that next looks like yet. But God does. And a big, warm welcome I want to give today to all of our incoming grade 7s. I was very, very impressed as you guys joined us on Friday night for Ignite. Normally, when grade 7s come in, they're very, very meek and coy and quiet. Just so you guys know, that does not describe this group at all, which is fine, because your youth minister isn't meek or coy or quiet either. So I'm glad for that. Now, whether you are graduating, just heading into junior high, or you've been in school, out of school for decades, I want us to zoom out and I want us to focus today on something that I believe is foundational in our walk with Christ. And that word is effort. The effort we are called to exert and the courageous risks, as Quasi was talking about, that I believe God is inviting us to take. We often talk about gifts and talents and potential, but today I want us to focus on one thing we truly have control over: our effort. And how our view of God empowers that effort that we share, even in the face of risk. How do we think about these things? Well, the truth is it changes everything. Today, we're going to explore the effort that we have and what it looks like. We're going to touch on a psychological perspective of what this looks like, and it's called the growth mindset. Those of you who are teachers would be very, very familiar with this. And another term, which is called the power of yet. Y-E-T. The more I say it, the weirder that word sounds. We're also going to look in 1 Timothy chapter 4, and I want us to come away understanding how God's love fuels our willingness to take risks. And we want to see how that was played out in this parable that Quasi just very, very expertly taught us. So psychologist Carol Dweck, she talks about two primary mindsets. First, there's the fixed mindset. This is the belief that your intelligence, your talents, your capacity for spiritual growth, that these are just fixed traits. You know, if you think this way, you're probably likely to be avoiding challenges because failure is just something that's going to prove that you have limitations. You might say, I'm not a patient person, or I could never lead a small group. There's no yet in a fixed mindset. But then there's the growth mindset. This is the belief that our abilities can be developed. That through dedicated effort, good strategies, and input from others, you can actually grow. People with a growth mindset often embrace challenges. They see failure not as a label, but as a learning opportunity. And they persist. They say, I'm not a patient person yet. Or leading a small group sounds scary, but I bet I could learn how. I'm just not ready yet. That little word, yet, changes everything, and it signals hope, potential, and an ongoing journey, not one that ends right here in front of us. So this brings us to 1 Timothy. Oh, sorry, no, it doesn't. It brings us to modern psychology and neuroscience, and this specific word called neuroplasticity. Not a word that I use in my everyday, but it's a very interesting word, and it means that our brains can actually change and grow based on our input and our effort. And spiritually, I believe in character plasticity. The formatting is totally wrong on this slide. Thought I was having a stroke. So character plasticity is often a made-up word. I say that's okay because I think all words are made up. But this means that our character, our integrity, can be molded towards godliness through deliberate training. So I want to say that again. Our character can actually grow and change to be more like God if we rely on Him. We aren't perfect yet, but we are being perfected. The belief that change is possible is foundational if we want to embrace the effort and the risks involved in true spiritual growth. You do not get through this life unscathed. You can't hide under a rock and expect to grow. Life is hard. But those hard moments are the things that make us into the people that we become and that God wants us to be. So in 1 Timothy chapter 4, verses 7 and 8, in the English Standard Version says this, have nothing to do with irrelevant, silly myths. Rather, train yourself for godliness, for while bodily training is of some value, godliness is of value in every way, as it holds promise for the present life and also for the life to come. So Paul says, have nothing to do with irrelevant, silly myths. Those fixed mindset lies that tell us, I can't. Instead, train yourself in godliness. That word train comes from the Greek gymnazo. It's the word we get gymnasium from. Rigorous, disciplined, and ongoing effort. It is an athletic pursuit. Many of our kids are athletes. I think you guys can understand this. You don't just wake up one day and are great at a sport. No matter how physically gifted you are, you still need to train to learn the fundamentals. The training has value in every way for this life and the next. Now, this kind of effortful training often involves us stepping out of our comfort zone, and it involves risk. And our willingness to embrace that risk is profoundly tied to the perception of God. And Dallas Willard says, grace is not opposed to effort, it is opposed to earning. Our effort, though, isn't to earn God's love. Grace empowers our effort. But if we are to take on risks that true training and growth demand, we must also believe that God, who calls us to this effort, is fundamentally a God of love. if secretly we believe God is a harsh taskmaster waiting for us to fail, sort of like this servant in the story that Quasi was teaching, we will play it safe every single time. But we know he is a loving Father, cheering us on, providing grace for us when we stumble. Then we are able to freely risk, to try, to stretch, knowing that God's love is constant. I think Quasi did an excellent job outlining this parable. And as I think about this servant who buried his talent, why did you bury it? He said, "Master, I knew you to be a hard man, reaping where you do not sow and gathering where you scattered no seed. So I was afraid." His perception of the master was one of harshness, not love. The fear rooted in a distorted view of the master, paralyzing. He couldn't risk because he didn't trust the master's character. He hadn't learned yet that true stewardship sometimes looks like courage. The other two servants, they put their talents to work. They took risks. They invested. Investing always involves risk. They didn't know for sure that they would double their money yet when they started, but they made every effort. They operated as if the master desired their active participation in their growth, not fearful inaction. Their willingness to risk and apply effort was rewarded. This parable teaches us that God entrusts us with gifts. All of you, every single one of you. I'm going to speak to you like I speak to the youth. You are all special. Larry, you are special. Did you know that? Mike, you're special. God made each of you special and worthy and wonderful. And he looked at you and he said, "It is good." But he desires for us to use our gifts with diligent effort, which includes taking faith-filled risks. We can only truly do this when we believe he is loving and gracious. He is looking at the heart of your efforts and the courage to act on what he's given us, trusting in him and his character. So what does this look like for us? To our graduating seniors, mags, as you step into new challenges, you won't have all the answers yet. You'll face situations that feel risky. Embrace a growth mindset. Commit to the effort of training in godliness. And take those faith-filled risks knowing that God, who calls you, is a loving Father. And you know this because you have a loving Father. He's with you. Your potential is not fully realized yet, Maggie. And that's exciting. To our incoming grade 7s who are faithfully paying attention to me, you might feel like you can't do certain things yet. Maybe school seems harder, or you're not sure where you fit in. Maybe you're scared to go to camp. Remember this power of this word yet. With effort and God's help, you will grow. Don't be afraid to try new things, even if it feels like a risk. God has amazing things for you, I promise. Things that you have not imagined yet. And to our entire church, please, I want to encourage us. Let's continue to cultivate a culture of yet. Let's be a community that champions effort and understands that spiritual growth involves courage and God-honoring risk-taking. that is fueled by the assurance of God's profound love for us. We may not be fully mature. In fact, I suspect we aren't. I know I'm not. But we, even though as a church we may not be fully mature, that the fully mature, impactful, wonderful church that God's calling us to be yet, but we are on that journey together. We are moving together with courage, with energy, with commitment. Let us encourage one another to step out of our fear and into faithful action, knowing that our Master is good and loving. Let us not be afraid to try new ministries, share our faith more boldly, to step into leadership. Where was a man or a woman in the Bible who was prepared for what they were being called to do? How often did they say, "No, not me, surely not me"? God is calling you. Answer that call. Don't be afraid. You can do this. You can overcome. The only thing that we have control over in this world, we can't control if we get cancer. We can't control what happens with the health of our children. We can't help what happens in politics in the world. We can't control any of that. We can't control what other people say to us and treat us. You can control your effort, though. You can control how hard you work, how much you grind, how much you give, how willing you are to give your time and your energy to serve your church, to love these kids. That is all within all of our control. My encouragement to all of us is to answer that call. We might be sitting there thinking, what in the world does God want us to do? He wants you to try. He wants you to move. And if you are out there today and you feel paralyzed, you feel like I can't move, I don't know what to do, I'm unworthy, I want you to take a note of these young people and look at the courage that they're leading their life with. And that is the product of an environment and a culture that has empowered them and encouraged them to be that way. Let's continue to do that. Let's continue to be bold. Let's continue to show effort. What area of your life is God calling you to apply to be more dedicated? Where is he asking you to be committed? Where is he asking you to get up and go? Take courage. It's okay. The worst thing you can do is fall flat on your face. But guess what? My wife, who's infinitely smarter than me, she has a great saying. We think of faith like climbing a ladder. You go, you get high, and then you slip, you fall, you hit your head on every step on the way down. Now you have to start over. That is not true. Life is a pathway. You will fall. You will fall flat on your face. You will embarrass yourself. You get right back up, dust yourself off. You keep walking straight to the cross. Amen.